Hello, everyone. I am so excited today. I have a special guest, Jessica Willis. Jessica is actually my coach, and I've been excited to share her with all of you. Jessica is an intuition expert. And one of the reasons that I hired her to be my coach is that I have very powerful intuition for my clients. I always have. When I'm working with them or thinking about them, I almost get like a computer screen of information and just things that are very helpful to know. But I could not apply that to myself, which was really frustrating. When I would kind of turn that beautiful gift toward myself, it was like blank. And so once I met Jessica and I discovered that she is not only a business intuitive, but we don't hire Jessica to tell us when our grandma's going to die. We hire Jessica to help us with our own intuitive skills, which can be so powerful. So welcome, Jessica.
Thanks so much.
So happy you're here. I
Likewise.
think one of the reasons I wanted to spend like 10 minutes together today for all of my readers and followers is that I think if I look at the corporate landscape, a lot of people are sitting at their desks or their cubicle or their remote or on an airplane, and they have lost their center, right? There's so much M&A going on. There's so much going on. And I feel like everybody is overwhelmed. And when things get complex like this, I think it's really helpful to be able to tap into our intuition at work. And so, what does that even mean to use our intuition at work?
It's an interesting concept, intuition. I think people have a lot of preconceived notions about what it is. Um, when I was growing up, my grandmother was highly intuitive and she worked with police departments to like find lost kids and open cold cases, and it was really intense. And I kind of thought like, wow, that's a really interesting take on intuition. But to be honest, it kind of freaked me out. So, in all of that, I had to discover what intuition was for me. And in that discovery, I realized that we are all wildly intuitive
Mhm.
once we know what it is and it isn't. And just like you said, it's not like, hey, what are the lottery numbers and when's my grandmother gonna pass on and can she talk to me and all of those things. It's
Yeah.
it's not that. Intuition is essentially the spirit of truth within you. And if you want to look at your body has a ton of abilities driven by the mind, driven by a balanced mind that let you know how you're doing,
Mhm.
what you're doing, if that's going to benefit you in the long run or if it's going to be limiting in the long run. And just kind of helps you get your bearings on, is this decision going to work out for me and us and we and the community and all of that? That would be intuition. I think we're also comfortable with the word instinct.
Mhm.
So, I followed my gut instinct. And we're like, oh,
Right.
well, that sounds really believable. So I think those things can be interchangeable, especially I've noticed that women have more of a comfort with the word intuition, and
Yeah.
men typically have more of a comfort with the word instinct. So
Love it.
we can go either
Yeah,
way on
whatever works for you.
exactly.
Well, so in my work, I will often ask my clients, like, there's this complex situation going on, and I'll ask them, what do you really sense is going on here? And I'm curious because sometimes we get confused between like the voice in our head and our intuition or instinct. So, how do we? Because almost always my client's first answer is something like sarcastic or dramatic, right? Like they're all assholes or whatever, or everybody's against me, or it's a conspiracy, or nobody cares about culture, just something general and unhelpful.
Yeah.
And then how do we get to the intuition part when the voice in our head is so loud?
Yeah, we've got a lot of voices in our heads. So we've got a lot of constructs and thoughts and emotions that we follow and that shape our perceptions and shape our experience. But initially, we can break it down to we've got this critical inner voice that's
Mm.
kind of demanding and judgmental, and it's like an inner drill sergeant or an inner, boardroom executive table with all these different voices yelling at us. And typically, the critical inner voice is going to speak through criticisms and judgment.
Mm.
And I've also observed in all my research, it's fear, doubt, and control. So when the critical inner voice is running the show, we're being driven in our thoughts and emotions by those types of constructs. Intuition, by contrast, it operates outside of fear, doubt, and control. It operates from a place that's inherently much more truthful, kind. It's not judgmental, but it is
Ah,
quite discerning. It can cut through the noise and it can cut through all the BS really quickly. And it does that by a series of kind of complex things in our brain. I won't get into it here, but our brain knows exactly what to do
mm.
once we stop listening to fear, doubt, and control.
I know I was trying to think. I think most of my clients are going to say, and I would say this too if I'm stressed out, what is there beside fear, doubt, and control? That's how I'm going to survive. I'm
Sure.
going to be afraid of it and think ahead of it. I'm going to be suspicious of it, or I'm going to control that.
Yeah, and with all of that, that's all survival-based thinking, and it's
Mhm.
quite appropriate when we're trying to navigate complex situations. But we can't live there.
Yeah.
Living there doesn't create future forward thinking and projects and businesses and profit lines that are really benefiting the whole and our employee base and ourselves.
Yeah.
So in the process of that intuition, once we transcend the fear, doubt, and control, a different, more balanced voice starts speaking, and
Hmm.
that's the one. It's gonna tell you the truth.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing, that sometimes the truth is like, ugh, oh, that was a little bit uncomfortable, but your body recognizes it as the truth and it settles into it, and we can make some very wise decisions from that point.
Yeah, and what I have found in my work with you is that at first it was almost indiscernible. I just couldn't even find it or hear it. And I love to tell this story because it was so weird. So you had given me the assignment of just write down in your journal at a quiet moment. And I was sat on my porch. It was 6 o'clock in the morning on a summer's day, and write, what do you, intuition, what do you want me to know? And I got a really clear answer of pay attention. And I was like, what does that mean? Pay attention. And literally in that second, I look up, and on the green belt in front of my porch, a coyote is like this close from getting a cat, a neighborhood cat. And I like clapped really loud and said, hey, and the coyote got scared off, and I saved the cat's life.
Yay.
And I was like, oh, well, paying attention was a great piece of advice from my either psychic intuition or just intuition.
Mhm.
And then since then, it's gotten much more clearer, and it's more kind of like I can sense it in my gut. What's the intuitive choice here? What
Absolutely.
what could be helpful to people that are just trying to navigate?
I think it's first asking ourselves a very brave and courageous question. And that's why developing your intuition, people call it a gift. And I do think it is a gift, but from my perspective, it's a skill. And skill has to be invested upon.
Hmm.
So when asking that brave and courageous question, it's, what is my relationship to fear? What is my relationship to doubt? What is my relationship to control? And how much of those constructs are kind of running my life?
Hmm.
Am I ready for something different? The next step after that, this is interesting about intuition, it shows up when you want it to be there.
Hmm.
You don't want to engage with your intuition, it's not going to show up.
Hmm.
So, in that same way that you permissioned it in that moment, what does my intuition want me to know?
Yeah.
It's almost a, hey, intuition, I'm willing to listen to you. Could you turn up the volume a little bit?
Yeah.
And it will.
I think I think I was completely open to it for my clients, but I thought I'm already doing it for myself. And really that was just that voice in my head, right? That thought I had it all dialed in.
Absolutely. And sometimes those are where the little bit of courage comes in of like, oh, I've been doing this for a long time. Is it
Yeah.
working? And then we ask ourselves the question, well, if it's working okay, but something could be better, your intuition
Yeah.
absolutely knows the way. And it is as simple as saying, intuition, I permission you to speak a little bit louder in my head, setting expectations here. We have much more practice with the critical inner voice than we do with our intuition. So
Yeah.
one of those is going to be a lot louder than the other.
Yeah.
And that's where the practice comes in. If we can get to that quiet moment every morning and just say, hey, intuition, the spirit of truth within me,
Yeah.
whatever truth that is that lives in here, what do you have to say to me today? And it's going to be one or two words.
Yeah.
It could be a feeling, it could be a
Mhm.
nudge, or for certain brains, it could be an image that pops
Yeah.
across your cognition. So we all think a little bit differently,
Hmm.
and that's how the messages show up in different ways.
So I know with our work together that you've connected emotional regulation with being able to have access to your intuition, inner wisdom, instinct, whatever you want to call it. So you have a technique, a strategy for getting re-regulated when we're dysregulated. So will you share that with us?
Yeah, just very briefly, it's called the 90-30-30 exercise. Very simple. Set a timer for 90 seconds. And you're basically asking one of these emotion slash mental constructs to just talk to you and kind of let you know where it's at. So you're going to ask fear, doubt, or control. What's your deal? What do you have to say to me today? Because most of us are really good at sort of listening and ignoring all of those. So for 90 seconds, you set a timer and you give fear, doubt, or control a microphone and you say, go nuts, rant if you need to. Because all that wants, especially fear, it just wants to be heard. After that 90 seconds, you set a timer for 30 seconds and you choose how you want to feel.
Mm,
This is what most people miss. We're so busy fighting what we don't want, we forget to
yeah.
choose what we do. So in this one, I suggest picking clarity. What does the feeling of clarity feel like? And you just focus on that for 30 seconds. You're priming your brain. The last 30 seconds is you spend visualizing, imagining, or pretending that you're moving through the rest of your day with clarity on your shoulder.
Mm,
If the mind can see it or pretend that it sees it, it can create it. So in a minute and a half, we've addressed the fear that's running rampant in our head. We set a new direction for our brain. Hey, brain, focus on clarity today. That would be
mm.
awesome. And then the last 30 seconds, we just imagine ourselves doing it. And it's simple exercise transforms our relationship with the brain. It does take practice, but we will feel a lot more clarity at the end.
Well, you've had me do it many, many times, and it really works. And it's amazing how busy, like, I think we're in the amygdala, right? When we're in control or whatever. And once you kind of give it a little rein, it's like very, very complainy and easy to do that for 90 seconds.
Yeah,
And then it just dissipates, and there's room for something else in only 90 seconds.
that's it. And you hit the nail on the head. It is about the amygdala. That is a very important piece of our brain that is threat detection.
Mm,
And we need to tell our brains there is no threat here.
yeah,
Difficult to do when we live in a chaotic world right now.
yeah.
So I'm a champion for practice. This is not an overnight thing. We've got lots of practice with our brain being one way. We need to practice our brain going the other way now. So big fan
Okay,
of
good.
that.
Well, as we start wrapping up here, I will put Jessica Willis's information, her intuition work that she does with others, her website in this post. Are there any final tips? Also, she has a ton of free and paid classes that you can take if you want more of a passive or self-guided approach. So,
Nice.
any final things that we can do to kind of encourage our instincts to be a bigger part of our workday?
I would ask all of us to consider the future that we're building. Do we want to build it on fear, doubt, or
Mm,
control as we maybe have done in the past? And are we ready to look towards a future where we're building on things like clarity and emotional intelligence and empathy? From my perspective, when we look at the future brightly, we can create a very bright future, but it's up to all of us to
mhm.
understand our own minds and then lending our wisdom and experience to the world out there.
I love that. And I love that for all the leaders that are listening, because that you have a tremendous amount of influence over your team. And what if you took time instead of our meetings are so crammed back to back to back to back? What if there was time, if there was 10 minutes to sort of check in. What do we sense about this? What could we do differently? How could we approach this to get kind of the wisdom of the team and their instincts and intuition as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm so
Thanks for
glad we
having me.
finally did this. We've been talking about it forever.
So appreciative of your work, Brenda, and all the people you impact. Thank you
Right
so
back
much.
at you. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone.